Welcome back to the Football Show. We start with the big breaking news this morning. One of the Premier League's greatest strikers, Jermain Defoe, has retired from football today. He leaves the game as the 9th highest scorer in Premier League history, whilst also representing England 57 times. Well, Defoe finished his career in League One at Sunderland after he re-signed for the club back in January on a deal until the end of the season. He played 7 times in total for them this season without scoring. Well, we can get some reaction to the news himself, from the man himself, I should say, because he has been speaking to our reporter, Dharmesh Sheth.
I'm having to say Jermain Defoe, former footballer. Number one, how does that sound and what's the overriding emotion just now?
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit strange. A lot of emotions. And was obviously a tough decision because, I mean, growing up, you sort of like, when it's your dream to play football at the top level, to be a professional, and obviously knowing that at some stage you're going to have to stop is sort of like, I mean, when you're young, it's unthinkable. You could never imagine stopping playing, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, to get to 39 is sort of like good going and that. So I'm proud of what I've done. And yeah, but I don't think it's sunk in yet, to be honest. I think it will take a while to actually sink in.
So,
yeah.
Look, you did sign a contract until the end of the season. So why have you decided now is the right time?
I think it's the right time, to be honest. I've asked. I mean, over the years, I've always asked players that have stopped playing, that are friends. I always say, did you know, like straight away that was the right time to stop? Like, why did you stop? And I always ask questions and stuff like that. And to be honest, it's something that I've been thinking about for a couple of weeks. I was in London at the weekend. I spent some time with my family. I mean, I had a 2-day conversation with my mum. For 2 days, this conversation has dragged on, and obviously spoke about obviously Sunderland, the club, and how you feeling and stuff like that. And it's just an honest conversation, to be honest. And she said some interesting stuff, and you know, she asked me obviously, how's your body and stuff, how do you feel? And I was just honest, and I said, obviously, I think it's the right time for me to stop, man, because I'll never sort of I'll never want to get into to a situation where, you know, you long it out, and you know, I mean, there's many factors, you know, you're sort of like blocking away for another youngster to come through. You got to listen to your body. I understand the aches and pains and the niggles and stuff like that. That's part and parcel, and you're going to get that as you get older. You know, even though I feel fit, but you're going to get that. That's normal. So, yeah, it's been a tough decision, but I believe in my heart that it's the right one.
Right, well, we have Matt Upson with us, don't we, for this morning's Football Show. The news came to us. We'd heard the last couple of days that perhaps he might be wanting to hang up his boots, but he's done well, hasn't he, considering he's got to 39, did everything he possibly could to try and prolong his career. But you just know when you know, don't you?
You absolutely do, Hayley, you really do. And I'm probably not a bad guest to have on at the moment with this news, because I played against Jermain Defoe so many times. I was on the receiving end of some of those brilliant finishes and pieces of quality that he produced over the years in the Premier League. I never knew he was in the top 10 of the goal scorers either. So 9th in the all-time Premier League goal scorers list is an outstanding achievement. Yeah. And he was one of those type of players that you just couldn't take your eye off him. Not massive in stature, but really packed a punch on the pitch in terms of his movement, his ability to cope with contact and then be alive in the box. He was a really difficult player to play against.
And what was he like as an England player? Of course, so many happy memories coming up through the youth ranks, the under-21s as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he came out to South Africa, played a big part in the World Cup in 2010, and, you know, 50-odd England cap shows you that, you know, the contribution he made to England. And again, he was the type of striker. For me, you saw the best from Jermain Defoe when he played up front with someone. And when you played him up as a pair, and a lot of the managers that had him, I think Harry Redknapp especially, and you look at his time at, you know, scoring loads of goals at Portsmouth, at Spurs, he just had the ability to link up with people really, really well. And he had an instinctive reaction in the box. So if you got wide and you put the ball in, like these type of goals here, you hit a certain area, there was no doubt that he was going to be there. and his finishing was just clinical. So, you know, in terms of movement, that little bit of, it's almost like a sixth sense that strikers have. You know, it's a know-how of an instinct of where to be at the right time. He had that in abundance, and he had the confidence and belief to be clinical on the pitch. And you know, the stats speak for themselves in terms of how well and how good he was as a goal scorer.
Coming up against him when he was at his absolute goal-scoring best, did you sort of have to prepare mentally differently? You obviously just knew that the ruthless talent that you know you were about to face, as you'd already mentioned there.
Yeah, I think some of the toughest players that you play against are ones that you almost don't know you're in a game with them, and he was that type of player. In the, you know, the first 20 minutes might go by, you got your eye on him all the time, or you're shouting to your centre back partner, you know, he's on your shoulder, what have you, and he might not have very much impact. Then all of a sudden there'll be a little situation develop, and he'll just make this one piece of movement, and it'll be lightning quick, and it'll be either a spin or a turn, or he'll lay one off first touch or a snapshot, and he, you know, might score, he might force a save from the goalkeeper, but he would just come alive in those moments. And I think that was the hard thing about playing against Jermain Defoe, in that he would do it in quite a stealthy fashion. And you might feel you're in control of it, and then all of a sudden, bang, he's in the box just at that key moment, and he would impact the outcome of the game. And you know, that's what you had to look out for when you played against him. He coped really well physically as well, because you know, the ball could come into him, and he used to ride tackles brilliantly, take contact, he'd kind of jump in the air and just bounce off, and learn how to do that over the years. So you know, really difficult opponent, and you know, sad to see him retired.
Were you surprised, do you think, when maybe, you know, he's had so many comebacks, hasn't he? His latest, unfortunately, hasn't quite worked out for him at Sunderland after, what, just 7-8 weeks there. But going to Rangers, you know, in his mid-30s, managing to win things at Rangers and scoring consistently and still brilliant goals as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, you speak to most players that have retired, you know, a lot of players can kind of think back to maybe a pivotal moment, whether that be in training or in a game or something somebody may have said, in where the realization hits you is like, maybe I can't do what I want to do anymore. Maybe it is the right time to hang your boots up. I mean, I remember a situation on a pitch where I went to tackle and I gave a penalty away, and I mistimed that tackle, and I came up kind of scratching my head thinking that, you know, normally that is meat and drink. I make that tackle, you know, 9.5 times out of 10, but the body just slows down a little bit, and it's just natural. He's 39 years old. He's done incredible to get to that stage. He still looks very fit, but your body just slows down, and perhaps in his mind, it's the right time. And it's very individual. It's very personal, and I wish him all the best.
He said he spent 2 days chatting to his mum over the decision. But how long does it actually take to come to terms with it once you've announced it?
I think it's different for every individual, to be honest. Some players finish and are looking forward to that, and almost delighted to leave the pressure of playing football behind and move on. Some players crave it. Some players really need that in their life, and look for the next challenge, or look for the next thing that they can stay in and be involved in football. So I think it's so individual. And I think it's probably good for everyone, once you make that decision, just to have a little bit of time, let the dust settle, you know, figure out what direction you want to go in, because we've all just been involved in football since you can remember, since you were a kid. You know, you left school, that was the only thing you went into, it's the only trade or the only skill that you've learned. So it takes a little bit of time to adjust.
Do you think he's the type of player that you could see going into coaching, maybe over media work? Where do you think he's going to fit with this one?
Yeah, well, I see him in bits and pieces of media at the moment. Whether coaching will be his thing, we'll have to know. I mean, it's so hard to tell. There's players that I played with that you'd walk away from, or you'd remember and go, there's no way they're going to be a coach. And then they retire and become really successful coaches. Or there's players that you kind of nailed on to think, well, they're going to go into management, and they decide not to. So it's so personal. It really, really is. And, you know, he'll spend a little bit of time, and I'm sure he'll have a lot of discussions with people around him to try and figure out what the next step is for Jermain Defoe.
What about Jermain Defoe, the person behind the football? On his Instagram, announcing this, as well as his Twitter, he's put a picture up of himself embracing the young Sunderland fan who sadly passed away from a rare form of cancer, Bradley Lowry. We saw how much he did for the family, what he did for Bradley, what he's done after that, what Jermain Defoe's also done. I mean, he's OBE, Jermain Defoe, isn't he? Setting up his charity as well. There's a lot more to Jermain Defoe apart from the football, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, all those things would indicate that. And I know he's very close to his family. And like I said, he mentioned the discussions that he had with his mum. I know that she's been, a real integral part of decision-making in his career. And in terms of off the pitch, he was always just a very happy-go-lucky guy. Great guy to have in the dressing room, good fun. And I think as his career went on, he focused on different things, the charities you mentioned and the involvement in various other things. And I think he's evolved in that sense to the age of, a 39-year-old man that has decided to call it a day. But I'm sure all of those interests and all of the things that he's picked up along the way is still going to play a big part in his life, just not as a functioning football player. But, I'm sure he still had the ability to impact other things.
Right. If you could give him one word of advice about what he does with his retirements, particularly with the first couple of weeks coming up where he can just enjoy doing whatever he wants to do, what advice would you give him?
Take a holiday. There you go. I think it's simple. Take a holiday, take some time and just have a breather. And then obviously I think decisions will be made and the future will figure itself out.